Since I was 15, Colbert has always protected me and spoiled me. I've always believed that even if every man in the world could betray me, he never would. But it wasn't until I was on the brink of death that I realized his love for me was real, and so was his infidelity. In return, I gave him a special gift. That gift was heavy, enough to break him, to make him suffer for the rest of his life. If, that is, he even has a life left to live. On winter solstice, it snowed heavily. I stood by the window in the obstetrics department, gazing at the vast, white world outside. My scattered thoughts only formed one clear idea. If I die, what will happen to Colbert? I had come here happily for a prenatal checkup, only to be diagnosed with kidney cancer. I didn't know how to break the news to him without hurting him too much. Swallowing the bitterness, I was about to call him when I saw something unexpected: Colbert and my mother-in-law. They were walking from the parking lot toward the outpatient building. My mother-in-law was walking arm in arm with a young woman, and Colbert kept a small distance behind them. Maybe the snow was too slippery, because the young woman suddenly stumbled, and my mother-in-law immediately called out to Colbert. Amid the swirling snow, the tall, handsome man tenderly supported the delicate, bird-like woman. The scene was so beautiful, yet so unbearable. I knew that woman well. She was his secretary, Faith. I had no idea when their relationship had grown so close. Colbert is the only family I have left in this world. Since I was 15, he's always protected me and spoiled me. I've always believed that even if every man in the world could betray me, he never would. I stared at him and Faith walking side by side, and dialed his number. But he didn't answer. I watched him take out his phone, glance at the screen, and then put it back in his pocket. I saw him escort the two women into the outpatient building before walking alone toward the parking lot. Just then, my phone rang in my hand. "What's up, Susan?" Someone was just briefing me on something, so I couldn't pick up. Colbert's voice was as tender and affectionate as always, not a trace of a lie detectable. It made me wonder, how many lies has he told me without me noticing? I forced a stiff smile. "I have something to tell you. I'll come by your office later." He paused, standing still. "I have meetings all morning and really don't have time. How about I take you out to lunch later?" He'd been so busy lately, too busy to even have a meal with me. Most nights, he didn't come home until after I'd already fallen asleep. I used to worry about him, always reminding him not to push himself too hard. But now, I wonder, what has he really been so busy with? Once trust starts to crack, the cracks only get bigger. I just couldn't understand. Life is so short. Isn't it better to love someone wholeheartedly, with no lies or betrayals? I swallowed the questions I was dying to ask and didn't confront him. I hate fighting over the phone. If there's something to say, I'd rather say it face to face. Actually, this morning when I saw the 2 lines on the pregnancy test, I was so happy I wanted him to come to the hospital with me. But seeing how rushed he was, I didn't want to take up his time. Who would have thought that he was rushing off to the hospital for someone else? After hanging up, my stomach suddenly churned. I rushed to the bathroom, dry heaving but unable to throw up. As I stood up, I heard my mother-in-law's voice from the hallway. "Faith, slow down. You have to be careful at all times. Don't worry, the baby's only a few weeks along. I don't even feel anything yet, no need to be so anxious." "Silly girl, the first 3 months are the most important." All right. I'll be careful, I promise. I'll make sure to give you and Colbert a chubby little grandson, so you can both be overjoyed every day." Haha, good. I love your energy, Faith. And don't be fooled by Colbert's reserved nature, he loves your personality just as much. Faith, I can't wait for the 3 of you to bring me all the joys of family life. Something exploded in my head, like a bolt of lightning striking me from head to toe. What a coincidence. My baby wasn't even a month old either. To love me while getting another woman pregnant. I suddenly felt disgusted. I couldn't throw up earlier, but now I was vomiting uncontrollably. I walked out of the hospital. Snowflakes fell on my face, cold as ice. My heart was frozen. Colbert's car was no longer in the parking lot. But I couldn't wait until noon to see him. I went straight to his office. The receptionist greeted me warmly and led me into his office, but he wasn't back yet. I sat down at his desk, staring at the photos of us from high school, college, our wedding, and our 10th anniversary not too long ago. My nose suddenly stung with the urge to cry. In my memories, the boy who was always distant and aloof to others was unfailingly gentle toward me. Susan, don't cry. Even if Uncle Lou isn't here anymore, I'll protect you. I'll never leave you. Marry me, Susan. I swear I'll protect you for life and make you the happiest woman in the world. I, Colbert, swear to the heavens, I will love only Susan for the rest of my life. If I ever betray her, may I die a horrible death. Promises must be the cheapest thing in the world. Yet the fool who listens to them believes every word. So much so that when I was first diagnosed with cancer, my greatest sorrow wasn't that I was going to die. It was that without me, how would he cope with the rest of his life? But maybe, without me, he'd be better off. I smiled bitterly, my eyes reddening. But what could I do? I couldn't bear it. At that moment, I heard Faith's playful laughter and footsteps approaching. Thanks for squeezing in breakfast with me, Colbert. I'll work twice as hard to repay you. All right, enough with the sweet talk. Give me the cake. I've been craving that flavor forever. You just had breakfast, no snacks for an hour. Come back for it later. You're so strict. But all right, I'll follow orders. The door opened. Colbert's smile froze the moment he saw me. I looked at the cake in his hand and feigned surprise. What a coincidence. I was just craving cake, and you brought some. Colbert's tense expression relaxed slightly. He quickly walked over and placed the cake in front of me. I bought your favorite, orange mousse. Faith's face instantly changed. But she quickly forced a smile. Oh, Susan's here. Long time no see. You're still as graceful and charming as ever. No wonder Colbert always says I'm immature, experience really does bring elegance. Did she think mocking my age would let her replace me? She owes me too much, and one day, she'll have to pay it all back. I smiled lightly, ignoring her. But Colbert frowned deeply. Faith, get out. She must have been so smug that she never imagined the father of her child wouldn't indulge her mind games with me, but would instead harshly reprimand her. She bit her lip, looking pitiful. Sorry, Colbert. I'll leave you and Susan alone. Unfortunately for her, Colbert didn't even spare her a glance. She left, humiliated. His eyes never left my face, his voice cautious. Didn't I say I'd pick you up before lunch? Why are you here so early? I looked at him. The tears I'd been holding back finally started falling, one after another. He panicked, fumbling to wipe them away, gently holding me. Susan, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm dying. And right before my death, I find out that the one person I love the most has already betrayed me. And shouldn't someone who betrays true love pay the price? I threw the cake in the trash, tears streaming down my face as I smiled at him. You bought that cake for her. Why lie to me? If you like younger girls, just tell me. I can let you two be together. Colbert, don't worry about past promises. I only hope that you and the person you love can be happy together every day. His face turned pale. The always composed face was suddenly filled with rare panic. Susan, you're the only one in my heart. I will never love anyone else. Don't overthink things. Colbert's serious, solemn expression almost made me believe him. Colbert, I'll only ask you once, what exactly is your relationship with Faith? Seeing him about to speak, I softly added, don't lie to me, or else we'll never see each other again. As expected, this made him fall silent. Gradually, I saw his eyes redden. I'm sorry, Susan. I was afraid of losing you, so I kept it from you. I have no relationship with Faith, but she's pregnant with my child. My hands started trembling. My whole body began to shake. That must be the most shameless thing I've ever heard. Colbert hugged me tightly, his voice rushed and hoarse. For years, my mom has been pressuring me to divorce you because of the child. I didn't want to upset you, so I kept it hidden. She likes Faith and has been trying to push us together. When I refused, she even threatened me with her life. I didn't betray you. The child was conceived through artificial insemination. My mom promised that once the child is born, she would take care of everything, and she wouldn't interfere with us anymore. That's the only reason I agreed. I'm sorry, Susan, but I couldn't just stand by and watch my mom die. So that's how it is. It reminds me of the old days when a wife couldn't bear children, so they'd taken a concubine to carry on the family line. The difference is, he believes that as long as he didn't have a physical relationship with her, it's not considered betrayal. I smiled. Saving his mother's precious life with a child is truly worth it. But the once pure-hearted boy who loved me with all his life, he's gone forever. Colbert lost his father at a young age, and his mother, Viola, raised him alone. She groomed Colbert into an outstanding man and always hoped he'd marry a girl from a good family. Yet, he fell in love with me, an orphan, loving me with all his heart. After 2 miscarriages, I couldn't conceive again for many years. So Viola treated me with thinly veiled scorn, mocking me for depriving their family of an heir, even cursing me to hell. But in front of others and Colbert, she always acted like the perfect, understanding mother-in-law. If I ever said a bad word about her, no one would believe me. Fortunately, Colbert truly loved me and respected my wish not to live with his mother. By avoiding her, we managed to live in peace for years. But it turns out that this peace was just something I imagined. I smiled, but my voice trembled. Colbert, before we got married, didn't she also threaten you with her life to break up with me? Have you forgotten? His gaze wavered. Memories from the past flooded his mind. After a long pause, I heard him mutter weakly. I heard her once before, and now, she's even older. For a moment, I wanted to laugh even more. The same scenario, but this time, he made a different choice. It seems like after all these years, I'd been the one standing in the way of their perfect mother-son relationship, their happy family? So they both came to disgust me? My laughter unsettled him. He held me tightly again, looking at me with pleading eyes. Susan, don't leave me over this. You can have whatever you want, as long as it's not this. Anything? Fine, I nodded, smiling. I'm pregnant too. Your family won't be without an heir. Make Faith get an abortion, fire her, and I'll pretend none of this ever happened. I stared intently into Colbert's eyes. I thought, if he just nods, I'd risk my life to give birth to this child and leave him with Colbert. But I could clearly see the shock and hesitation in his eyes. Only, no joy. Susan, don't be mad at me, okay? My dad passed away early, and my mom hasn't had an easy life. Since you couldn't have children, I had no choice but to find a compromise. Both you and my mom are the most important people in my life. Can't you understand my position? I suppressed the stabbing pain in my heart and spoke slowly, one word at a time. I really am pregnant. Do I need to show you the test results? Too bad I had torn them apart in a fit of tears, back when I was so nauseated that the world was spinning. Colbert rubbed his temples and took a deep breath. After all those years of going to hospitals and taking all that medication, you still couldn't get pregnant. I didn't want to see you suffer anymore, so I agreed to my mom's plan. I turned my head slightly. Oh, so him wanting to have a child with Faith is for my own good? He paused, frowning as he gripped my shoulders. And even if you were pregnant, with all the medication you've taken, the baby might not be healthy. Don't be unreasonable, okay? I promise, once Faith gives birth, my mom will take the child, and I'll never see her again. Isn't that enough? You've always been so understanding, Susan. Why are you putting me in such a difficult position now? With every word he said, my heart grew colder. We stared at each other. The air felt suffocating. Just then, Faith knocked on the door, reminding him of his meeting. I forced a smile. Keep the child, fire her, can't you at least do that? Seeing me smile, he seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and hugged me tightly. Okay, I'll do as you ask. Just don't be mad at me. Sure, I won't be mad. Because it no longer matters. As soon as I left Colbert's office, I went straight to the hospital. When the doctor advised me to give up the baby and prioritize cancer treatment, I couldn't bear to part with the little one I had tried so hard to have. I had planned to trade my life for this little one's survival, so he could stay with his father. I believed his father would love him with all his heart, making him the happiest child in the world, even if I wasn't there to watch him grow. It wouldn't matter. But unfortunately, his father didn't love him that much. He was even anticipating another woman's child. So why should I bring him into such a harsh world? I didn't choose a painless procedure. I wanted this heart-wrenching pain to remind myself that I'm not the only one who should suffer. The surgery was over quickly. Bringing a life into this world is so difficult, but ending one is so simple. I took a photo of my ashen face, along with the abortion report, and posted it on Instagram, set to private. I wonder, when Colbert sees it, what will he feel? Not that it matters to me anymore. I sat on a bench outside the operating room, my mind blank for a long, long time. When I finally stood up, I immediately felt a rush of blood pouring from me. I leaned against the wall. Every step I took felt like knives cutting into me. Suddenly, I thought of the little mermaid in the fairy tale. When she lost her tail and walked toward the prince, she must have felt this excruciating pain too. But in the end, she still didn't get the love and life she wanted, fading away into foam. If the prince had known the truth, he probably would have said, "It's not my fault, I'm innocent." Just like my Colbert, who held me with teary eyes and said, "I love you so much. Why are you making things so hard for me?" It's quite funny. But unlike the Little Mermaid, I won't turn into foam after losing my prince. I want to become something more valuable. By the time I reached the cancer hospital, I was drenched in cold sweat. David's eyes reddened when he saw me. "Susan, don't be scared. Let's run a full checkup first. If the cancer hasn't spread, we can consider removing the kidney. As long as we act fast, the 10-year survival rate for kidney cancer is still quite good." David and I both graduated from North City University Medical School. He's 2 years younger than me and is now a senior oncologist specializing in urology. As for me, I haven't been able to hold a scalpel since that injury 3 years ago, forever saying goodbye to the profession I loved. I shook my head with a smile. I only have one kidney left. The other was lost due to that injury. So I know my condition doesn't look good. Seeing David's shock and sympathy, I quickly waved my hand. "Don't look at me like that. This is why I hate going to people I know for treatment. I came to you not so much for treatment, but for a favor." David quickly composed himself, nodding seriously. "Go ahead. I want to donate my body to the Academy for research." Clang, David, who had been handing me a cup of water, suddenly dropped it to the floor. "Susan." His voice choked. In the end, it was me who spent a long time comforting him. My life has been short, and I haven't accomplished much. So why not do something meaningful after my death? Besides, I don't want to be buried in a cemetery, giving Colbert a place to come and mourn me. The mere thought that he's the father of Faith's child, and that they might have more children after I'm gone, disgusts me. Even after I die, I don't want him to come and make me sick. By the time I got home, it was already evening. I expected the usual, coming home to a cold, empty house. But to my surprise, the ever-busy Colbert was in the kitchen, wearing an apron and cooking for me. That gentle smile on his face, the one I used to love so much, brought back memories of the good old days. But sadly, there's no going back. When we went to bed, he held me tightly. "I'm taking a week off for New Year's. Let's go to Universal Studios for New Year's Eve, then take a hot spring vacation together, okay?" I froze for a moment. I had wanted him to take me to Universal Studios when it first opened, but he kept putting it off for 3 months. And during those 3 months, I loved him just the same while he was busy making a baby with Faith. If I hadn't caught them and called him out, if I hadn't pierced his guilty conscience, I probably would never have had this moment. I smiled. "Sure." Seeing me agree, he let out a breath of relief and intertwined his fingers with mine. His voice was so tender it was almost unbelievable. "Susan, the truth is, I've been avoiding you these past few months, because I was scared to face you. I won't ever do that again, okay? Okay. We can be just like before, with no distance between us, as close as ever, right?" "Right." Seeing me smile at everything he said, he began to panic a little. Susan, you really understand me now. You don't blame me anymore, right? Of course. I pulled my hand away gently, smoothing out the furrow between his brows. I didn't want our last memories together to be filled with endless arguments. Besides, the more gentle I am now, the more it will hurt him later. Loving deeply is the final punishment I'll leave for him. Nestled in Colbert's warm embrace, listening to his steady breathing, I began to feel sleepy. But then, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was Faith. I smirked. No surprise there. Of course, she would be the first to crack. Faith's family and mine were neighbors. When I was 15, one night, her house caught fire. My dad was the first to hear their cries for help, and he rushed in without hesitation, saving their entire family. 2 days later, my dad passed away from severe burns. My mom had died in childbirth years before, so it had just been me and my dad. Then, because of a fire at Faith's house, I became an orphan. Faith's parents had sworn they would take care of me in return for my father's sacrifice. Faith herself had tearfully promised that I would forever be her big sister. But what happened later? She used that very title, Big Sister, to cozy up to Colbert's mom, claiming she was just trying to ease the tension between me and my mother-in-law. Not only did she become close with Colbert's mom, but she also got herself a job as his secretary, and now, she's carrying his child. Faith is younger than me, not as good-looking, and her personality is jittery and clumsy, definitely not Colbert's type. So I never took her being around him seriously. But looking at it from another angle, even if it weren't Faith, it would have been someone else. When love turns sour, the problem isn't with the other woman. I glanced at Colbert, sound asleep beside me, and quietly got out of bed. In the bathroom, I opened the voice message Faith had sent. It was a recording of a conversation between her and Colbert. Faith, every time I think about going home, I just feel so drained. I don't get it. My mom's such a nice person, why can't Susan get along with her? Just because my mom didn't approve of our marriage at first, Susan's held a grudge all these years, even though my mom treats her like her own daughter now. She's always so cold to my mom, and she knows I love her, so she takes advantage of that and puts me in such a difficult position. Colbert, you've had too much to drink. Susan isn't like that. She's great, but when it comes to my mom, she never considers my feelings. My mom's getting older, and Susan knows how much I care about her, but she refuses to let my mom move in with us. My mom always tells me it's fine, that as long as our marriage is good, she's happy. But I've seen her cry behind my back, and I feel like a failure, like I can't even handle my own wife, let alone keep my mom from feeling hurt. Colbert, I made some soup to help sober you up. Drink some, or you'll have a headache later. Thank you, Faith. Every time I see you making my mom laugh, I feel so grateful. You always make me feel at ease. I just wish Susan could be more like you. Faith, I'll make sure you're taken care of. By the time I finished listening to their conversation, my hands and feet were ice cold. I used to be so moved by his protection over the years, but to him, I was just the villain making his sweet mother's life miserable. And agreeing to let Faith have his child? That wasn't just because of his mom's threats of suicide. A peaceful mother-in-law relationship and a house full of grandchildren, that's what he really wanted. I closed my eyes. The pain of betrayal, sharp and relentless, gnawed at me like a hungry beast. I bit my lip hard. Revenge, cold and determined, slowly took root. The next morning, I made him breakfast as usual. Before leaving, he kissed me for a long time, reluctant to go. After he left, I wiped my lips. I almost felt like throwing up. That afternoon, I went shopping for baby clothes and toys, and then headed to my mother-in-law's house. It's only a few hundred meters from mine, another villa in the same neighborhood. Is this really the distance that drove Colbert to drink and made his mother cry? As soon as I stepped inside, just as I expected, Faith was there. Both of their bright smiles vanished the moment they saw me. Viola's face twisted in disgust. Faith clung weakly to Viola's arm, trembling. Susan, it was you who got Colbert to fire me. Mrs. Viola was just kind enough to take me in. She's been lonely living alone, so I'm just keeping her company for a few days. Please don't be angry. I smiled and sat across from them. Faith, you've gone through so much to carry Colbert's child. I could never be angry, I'm grateful. Firing you was just for appearances. After all, you're in the later stages of pregnancy, and rumors could hurt you, an unmarried girl. Last night, I listened to the recording you sent me. I spent the whole night reflecting on myself. You should rest and take care of yourself. I'll make sure Colbert comes over to spend more time with you. When the baby is born, we'll all live together as one big happy family. Faith was stunned. The last thing she expected from sending me that recording was for me to be so understanding. Viola, on the other hand, eyed me suspiciously before calling me into her room. Susan, drop the act. I don't want to live with you. Faith is carrying my grandchild. When are you finally going to divorce Colbert? When it's just the two of us, she doesn't even bother pretending. I quietly tightened my grip on the recording device in my pocket. Mom, I've been married to Colbert for years now. You always say in front of him that you treat me like a daughter, but behind his back, all you ever do is insult me or try to push me out of his life. I've never told him, just because I didn't want to hurt him. But no matter how much I endure, I can't seem to get even a shred of kindness from you. Stop wasting time. Just divorce my son, and I won't give you a hard time. But Colbert won't leave me. Even though Faith is pregnant, he doesn't want to divorce me. He says I'm the only woman he'll ever love. Can you really stand to see him marry someone he doesn't care about? I had long seen through her. Viola didn't hate me as a person. She only hated whoever Colbert loved. She liked Faith, but only because she knew Colbert didn't love her at all. Sure enough, when Viola heard this, her chest heaved, and she burst out cursing, "What kind of spell have you put on Colbert? The son I raised is being taken away by you. Susan, you won't divorce Colbert, clinging to him like this, don't you have any shame?" I, with a sob in my voice, fanned the flames. "Mom, please calm down. I know you won't move in with us, because you don't want to see Colbert treating me well. How about I let Colbert move back here? You, Faith, and the kids can live together as a family. He just has to come see me once in a while. But as long as he doesn't mention divorce, I will never bring it up. Colbert and I have been in love for so many years, we really can't live without each other. Please, have some compassion for us." Viola exploded like a lit fuse. A torrent of nasty words rained down on me, completely different from the calm and reasonable retired teacher she presented in public. I hung my head, pretending to be sad, saying nothing. But inside, I was sneering. How surprised would Colbert be to see this side of his supposedly kind and patient mother, a hysterical shrew? It wasn't until she'd worn herself out from shouting that I finally spoke in a hoarse voice. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to upset you again. If it weren't for wanting to drop off a gift for the kids, I wouldn't have dared come and bother you. Please take care of yourself. I'll leave now." As her curses faded behind the closed door, I lowered my eyes and quickly walked out. Passing through the living room, I shot a cold glance at Faith. "Do you remember who saved your life? Do you not have nightmares in the middle of the night?" Faith was stunned for a moment, then glanced at the gift I had brought, probably thinking I had completely lost to her. No longer pretending to be weak, she lowered her voice and stepped closer to me. "You can't have kids of your own, and now you're jealous, because I'm pregnant with Colbert's. So, you're here to guilt-trip me, how pathetic. Your dad saved us because he wanted to. We didn't beg him to do it. We survived that day, but he didn't. That was just bad luck on his part. Why blame us? Besides, we pay our respects every year. We burn paper for him at every holiday without fail. What more do you want from us?" Slap. I interrupted her with a hard slap across the face. Faith clutched her cheek and glared at me, furious. "Susan, how dare you hit me?" I simply slapped her again. "Faith, you can wait for your karma." Without looking back at her crying and shouting, I left. Suddenly, I realized that being tied to someone as heartless as Faith for the rest of his life was probably the greatest punishment and revenge for Colbert. That evening, I only made dinner for myself. Colbert had sworn he'd come home early to be with me, but I was sure he wouldn't. I sat on the couch, waiting for him. But the increasingly severe back and abdominal pain tortured me no matter how I tried to sit or lie down. These pains had been going on for over a year, but I hadn't paid much attention. After all, I had lost a kidney a few years ago, and the lingering pain was something I had grown used to. As someone with medical knowledge, I didn't think it was a big deal. On top of that, I had been trying to strengthen my body in hopes of having a child with Colbert, but the medications only worsened the strain on my kidneys. I had been careless. Looking at the long list of treatment plans David had sent me via email, I was touched by his meticulous care. If even a friend cherished my life so much, I had no reason to give up on myself. I braced myself and, for the first time, made a serious decision. I was going to fight to stay alive. It was close to midnight when Colbert finally walked through the door. He looked at me, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't. I pretended not to notice and went to prepare him a late-night meal. He grabbed my arm, full of frustration. "Why did you hit Faith? Can't you stop taking out your anger on her? She's innocent in all of this, just a young woman having a child, and she didn't even know." He trailed off, sighing. Just look at him, he had said he wouldn't even see her once the baby was born, and now he's already feeling sorry for her. Seeing me lower my eyes in silence, he pulled me into his arms, the irritation he was trying to hide almost spilling over. "Susan, I only love you. I will never divorce you because of the baby. You can rest easy about that. But can you please stop provoking Faith and my mother? Because of your outburst today, one of them had stomach pains, and the other felt chest discomfort. I'm really too exhausted, Susan." So, whatever they say, he believes. The love he gives me is becoming cheaper by the day. I couldn't help but wonder how much it would hurt him when he found out what really happened this afternoon. I didn't answer him, only smiled bitterly. "Colbert, do you remember the 2 children we lost? When we first got married, during the hardest time of his startup, I worked at the hospital during the day and helped him organize documents at night, sleeping only 3 or 4 hours a day. Our first child left me during that time. The second was 3 years ago. After having dinner out with him, we were standing by the roadside, waiting for our driver. A runaway electric scooter swerved toward Colbert, who was on the phone, facing away from the road. Without hesitation, I pushed him out of the way. The scooter knocked me down, its wheels rolling over my body and wrist. I not only severed the tendons in my right hand but also lost a kidney, and our child. All the love I had for him back then, unwavering and deep, now felt like an unbearable pain piercing my heart. With tears in my eyes, I smiled. I just missed our 2 children, so I bought some baby gifts to bring over. I didn't expect it to cause any conflict, but it won't happen again." Colbert was silent for a long time before he finally showed a hint of guilt. He buried his head in my shoulder and said hoarsely, "Susan, I'll make it up to you. But the truth is, Susan, can both love deeply and let go easily. I never cared for his compensation. He just doesn't understand that anymore." The next day was Christmas Eve. Colbert gave me a necklace worth over $1 million. He personally put it on me, saying that pearls suited my temperament the best, pure and bright like the moon. I liked it. At least, until I saw the post Faith put on Instagram. The happiest thing is when the person you like just happens to like you back. In the photo, there was a bracelet worth tens of thousands, and, in the corner, I could see Colbert's cufflinks. I guessed she posted it just for me to see, but I couldn't help giving it a like. Then I took a screenshot, along with my pearl necklace, and posted it on my own Instagram, set to private. The difference between a wife and a mistress is just the title. I guess I should be happy. I imagined Colbert's reaction when he saw it, and couldn't help but laugh through my tears. In the following days, David and I finalized the treatment plan and set the date for hospitalization. I carefully wrote my will and filled a whole drawer with notes for Colbert. He said he was working overtime to wrap things up before his upcoming vacation, so he started coming home late again. But at this point, whether that was true or not didn't matter anymore. It suited me just fine. Before I knew it, New Year's Eve had arrived. He booked the most expensive restaurant, bought a bouquet of red roses, and ordered a table full of my favorite dishes. Through the glow of the candlelight, I looked at his loving, smiling eyes, and it felt like we were back in those years when he loved me the most. After dinner, we held hands and strolled through the crowds of young couples in love at Universal Studios. On a whim, he bought me a pair of cute bunny ear headbands and placed them on my head. He held my face, looking me up and down, then kissed my eyes with a smile, saying I was his moon. Even though my back was aching so much I could barely stand up straight, I forced myself to walk in step with him, keeping up. Because in that moment, I was genuinely happy. I thought, maybe I could ride that crazy roller coaster I've always been too scared to try, watch the romantic fireworks show I'd been longing for, and give my dying love a farewell full of screams and laughter, leaving no regrets. But the smile on my face gradually faded when Colbert answered his phone. Faith was crying hysterically. "Colbert, where are you? Please come back. Mrs. Viola isn't feeling well, her chest hurts and she can't even speak. I'm so scared. Colbert, I beg you, come back quickly. I can't take care of Mrs. Viola by myself. If something happens to her, I won't be able to go on either." Colbert's face changed instantly. "Susan, quick, my mom might be having a heart attack. We need to go back now." He grabbed my hand and ran. The sudden pull on my already pained back felt like a knife stabbing into me. I fell hard to the ground. He looked back at me, still lying on the ground, and shouted, "Hurry up. Didn't you hear? My mom's in trouble." His yell startled me, my heart clenched. He thought I was deliberately slowing things down. "Susan, even if you have issues with my mom, you don't have to be this heartless, do you? Besides, Faith nearly had a miscarriage because of the stress you caused her, and I didn't even bring that up. Now both she and my mom are in danger. What's wrong with you? How did you become like this?" The disdain in his eyes was so clear to me. It felt like a string had tightened around my heart, cutting it in two. I gasped for air, struggling to breathe. He frowned, noticing something was wrong, and pulled me up. But then his phone rang again, urgently. Without hesitation, he let go of my hand, answered the call, and hurried off. My back couldn't hold my weight any longer, and I collapsed to the ground again. I thought I heard the back of my head hitting the pavement. People started gathering around, but I couldn't make out their faces anymore. "Call someone, she's losing a lot of blood. I think she's not breathing. Does anyone know CPR? Help her." The noise went from sharp to distant. Everything was over. "Colbert. Loving you hurts so much. Forever and ever. Please, let's never meet again. So, this is what dying feels like. The pain is so intense, even my organs are seizing up. I must look terrible, my face must be twisted and horrifying. I'm sorry, kind strangers. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm really, really sorry. Susan, Susan." A soft voice echoed faintly in my ear. I frowned. "Susan, wake up, it's me, David. You've done nothing wrong, stop saying sorry. Don't be afraid, Susan, you're okay now. Please don't cry anymore." The voice, once blurry, gradually became clearer, but it took me a long time to process. Am I still alive? I forced my eyes open, and slowly, David's worried face came into focus. Bit by bit, my memory came back. I remembered how, in those fading moments of consciousness, I had managed to dial David, my emergency contact. I knew Colbert would leave me behind. And if I really died on the street, all I wanted was for David to take my body back to the medical school. Looking at David's tired and haggard expression now, guilt weighed heavily on me. We hadn't been in touch much since graduation, aside from doing a few experiments together. It was just that now he specialized in urological oncology and still lectured at the med school, so I reached out to him about donating my body. "I'm sorry, David, I've caused you so much trouble." David sighed and shook his head. "You've been saying sorry nonstop since the anesthesia wore off. What's there to apologize for?" "Anesthesia?" I was confused. Did I have surgery? From the look in David's eyes, I saw a hint of reluctance. "You hit your head in the fall and had a frontal lobe hemorrhage. They had to do an intracranial drainage procedure. If you'd hit your head just a little harder, you might not have made it." I was stunned. Slowly, I reached out to touch my head. All my hair was gone. I had already prepared myself for losing my hair during chemotherapy, but now that it had all been shaved off because of the surgery, imagining how ugly I must look, I felt so weak and sad that I could barely breathe. Maybe my expression was too painful to look at, so David gently comforted me. "Susan, don't be like this. Once the drainage tube is removed, you can wear a wig." I snapped out of it and forced a smile, nodding. David handed me my phone. "Susan, Colbert's called many times. I was busy and only just noticed." "Do you want him to come take care of you?" he asked cautiously. I had asked David not to tell anyone about my illness, not former teachers, not classmates, and especially not Colbert, unless absolutely necessary. At first, I wanted to tell him everything right away. We had promised never to keep secrets from each other, good or bad. I relied on him so much, needed him to give me strength and courage to fight this illness together. But in the end, I realized that the only person I could truly rely on was myself. David wasn't one to ask many questions, so he agreed back then, without pressing for details. Maybe now, after seeing me go through cancer and then a head injury, he just couldn't bear it anymore. "Could you hire a meticulous caregiver for me? A full-time, one-on-one type. I'd like to transfer to your hospital for treatment as soon as possible." David finally couldn't hold back anymore. "Susan, you and Colbert, what happened?" I smiled slightly. "He's too busy. I don't want to bother him right now. But later, when I need to hand some things over to him, I'll need your help." He looked at me, silent for a while, then nodded. After David left, I turned on my phone. I had been unconscious for nearly 2 days. It was already the second day of the new year. Looking through my call history, I saw that Colbert's first call to me was in the early hours of New Year's Day. I guess by then, both his mom and Faith were out of danger, and he finally remembered my humiliating fall that night. Or maybe I was being cynical. Maybe his mom had never been in any real danger, she probably just couldn't stand him spending New Year's Eve with me. He wouldn't even think about it, that the person who almost died wasn't his mother. It was me. In the messages, he kept asking the same thing over and over again. "Where did you go? Can you stop being so stubborn? Why aren't you home yet?" Home? With the new year starting, I don't have a home anymore. Besides, in the bright future that your family is planning, there's no space for me. I quietly wiped away my tears and blocked him from my contact list and everywhere else. After being transferred to the cancer hospital, David helped arrange a private room for me. But due to the unexpected head injury, my condition wasn't good. After they removed the drainage tube, I had a persistent low fever, and my blood counts were very low. With this physical state, I couldn't endure the cancer treatment we had planned, and it had to be postponed. The pain in my lower back was getting worse. The pain was so deep that it felt like it was seeping into my bones. I've always been good at enduring pain. I once endured the excruciating pain of stomach spasms for 2 hours without taking any medicine. But now, I couldn't get through the day without painkillers. After I fainted again from dizziness and was resuscitated, I looked at my emaciated reflection in the mirror, feeling dazed. I wasn't sure how much longer I could hold on. But I used to cheer myself up so hard. I wanted to live. Even if it's just one more year, just to see the seasons change one more time. "Susan, don't you have family in the north? If you have something on your mind, why don't you talk to me? Don't bottle everything up inside. It's not good for your health." The nurse was a thoughtful middle-aged woman. I liked her a lot. Sometimes, watching her take care of me, I couldn't help but wonder, if my mother were still here, would she be this gentle with me too? No, no. Thankfully, my parents are gone. Otherwise, how could I bear to let them experience the sorrow of outliving their child? Living is more painful than dying. I know that better than anyone. I smiled at her reassuringly. My parents have passed away. Now I'm all alone, no ties left. Don't worry about me. I don't have anything weighing on my mind, I'm just not very talkative. She froze for a second and sighed. "Oh sweetheart, I'm sorry, I didn't know." "It's okay," I smiled. She quickly changed the subject. "David said you went to the same school as him. Are you a doctor too?" "Yeah, I used to be." My father's burned body before he passed is a pain I can never forget. That's why I chose to specialize in burn surgery. I was doing well in my field too. But unfortunately, I can't perform surgery anymore. Susan, how old are you? Still single, right? You look younger than my son's wife. She's 26 and about to have a baby. Since getting sick, it was the first time I'd laughed so freely. I'm already 35, and I look like this. You're really good at sweet-talking people. The nurse looked at me in surprise. I'm not sweet-talking you. The first day I saw you, I thought, how could parents not feel heartbroken, seeing such a young girl so ill? I smiled, then turned my head and gently wiped my eyes. It must be nice to be your daughter or your son's wife. Oh no, don't say that. If you got married, your mother-in-law would definitely spoil you. Such a pretty, gentle, polite, and caring girl, whoever marries you is very lucky. Would they really think they were lucky? My mind drifted for a moment. That day when Colbert yelled at me for his mother, the disgust in his eyes was just like Viola's usual look at me, stabbing into my heart like a knife. After all, they were mother and son, bonded deeply. From that moment on, my heart shattered completely. And it's still shattered, though it doesn't hurt as much anymore. I smiled faintly, not wanting to continue talking about marriage. I adjusted my long wig in the mirror, put on some lipstick, and tried to make myself look a little more alive. Nurse, can you take me outside for some fresh air? Sure, let's chat more while we're out. Seeing you with more energy makes me happy too. Can you help me walk a bit? I don't want to sit in the wheelchair, it makes me feel like a useless person. No way. Last time I helped you walk, you fainted, and David got mad at me. You scared me half to death. Be good, and I'll take you out, or else stay in bed and rest. I smiled helplessly. Okay, I'll listen. Just then, David called. Susan, I've got some good news for you. I winked at the nurse and asked playfully, did you crack the kidney cancer problem? David was always serious and straightforward, not the type to joke. But today, he actually chuckled. Not quite, but after consulting with the professor and neurology experts, we've come up with a new treatment plan for you. I'm feeling pretty confident. Anyway, I'll come by your room later, to explain in detail. He seemed happy as he hung up. The nurse was even more excited than I was. That's amazing, Susan. See? Good things happen to good people. Once you're better, I'll cook all kinds of delicious food for you and make sure you get nice and plump. The warm sunlight streamed through the window, lighting up my heart. I had never wanted to live so badly as I did right now. That day, the weather was especially good. Or maybe I felt that way because I finally had hope for my illness. Even my body didn't seem to hurt as much anymore. Because my body was too weak to handle the cold wind outside, the nurse pushed me around the hospital corridors instead. She only picked the sunny spots, insisting that I soak up the sun to strengthen my body. I was almost feeling dizzy from the sun, but inside, I felt warm. The feeling of being cared for by an elder, it was so nice. David called again, saying he had arrived at my room, so we started heading back. As we passed by an office, we suddenly heard the sound of an argument. I never liked getting involved in such things, so I was about to tell the nurse to hurry past. But then, I heard a man's furious roar. All she had was a minor knee surgery, how could you let her die? This was clearly medical malpractice. And you refuse to admit it. You just don't want to pay. Fine, then pay with your lives. Then came the sound of heavy objects smashing and frantic screams for help. The nurse and I were both shocked. There wasn't time to call the police. Nurse, go get security. Okay. I'll be right back. But before the nurse could even disappear around the corner, the office door burst open. 2 nurses were helping an elderly female doctor stumble out. The doctor was clutching her shoulder tightly, her white coat stained with blood. Even worse, a younger man was violently grabbing at them, while another middle-aged man, waving a bloody knife, was chasing them, stabbing wildly. Suddenly, I remembered my mentor. He had already retired, enjoying his later years, but came back to work when the hospital needed him. In the end, after being attacked by an irrational patient's family, he passed away shortly after. And now, the same thing was happening right before my eyes. The elderly doctor was being dragged to the ground, and the man was about to stab her. I desperately wheeled myself forward, ramming into the man's side. The impact knocked him down. Security and others quickly arrived and subdued both men. I let out a long breath of relief. But then, I heard the nurse's heart-wrenching sobs. "Susan! Susan, wake up! Don't scare me, my dear Susan!" When I knocked the man down, I was thrown aside as well, hitting the wall hard. It felt like my neck was broken, I couldn't lift my head. It hurt so much. Blood was flowing from my head like a river, slowly blurring my vision. I wanted to comfort the nurse, tell her not to be afraid, that I'm tough and I'll be okay. But I didn't even have the strength to speak anymore. The world was going dark. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The constant beeping of the machines pulled my scattered consciousness back. "Susan. Hold on, please. We'll get through this together, okay? We have a treatment plan now, Susan. Please, hang in there, you're going to get better, Susan." Was that David? He sounded like he was crying. He's always been so calm. So maybe I'm not so lucky this time. I used all my strength to open my eyes. But I couldn't even make out his face. I wanted to smile at him. But I couldn't even do that. At least, I knew this was coming. I had everything planned out beforehand. If I could see my father again, I could proudly tell him that his Susan did some meaningful things in this life, and didn't embarrass him. And here with me, at the very end, is my dearest friend, David. I've always been afraid of troubling others, and I've felt guilty for troubling him all this time. He's so busy, working so hard. At least now, I won't be a burden to him anymore. Suddenly, my body felt lighter, my thoughts scattered, and my eyelids felt as heavy as lead. I couldn't hold them open any longer. I'm so tired, but it feels like I'm about to float away. Would floating make things easier, happier? I slowly closed my eyes. From outside came the sudden sound of desperate, heart-wrenching cries. "Let me in! Let me in! My wife is in there! Susan is my wife! Let me in! You can't just barge in here. If you keep this up, we'll have to restrain you. Let go of me! Get your hands off me! All of you, get the hell out of my way! Let me in, now!" My eyelids twitched. David's hoarse voice came through in a choked whisper. "Susan, Colbert's here. Do you want to see him?" "Him? Forget it. Forget it." I gathered all my remaining strength and lightly shook my head. Before my eyes, a beautiful field of flowers appeared. In the flower field, a boy rode a bicycle, carrying a girl in a flowing white dress. "Susan, marry me. Let me protect you, be by your side forever, and never let anyone hurt you." "And what if you hurt me?" "I, Colbert, swear to the heavens, I will love Susan and only Susan for the rest of my life. If I betray her, may I die a terrible death." In an instant, the vibrant flower field withered. The girl smiled as she jumped off the bike and waved gently to the boy. "Thank you for walking with me through such a long, lonely road. But let's stop here. Goodbye, forever." Colbert's extra chapter. After that unpleasant fight on New Year's Eve, Susan started giving me the silent treatment and went missing. Looking back, I realize I was too impatient, and I wasn't kind to her. I regret it. But she didn't even give me a chance to apologize. She wouldn't answer my calls or texts, and the next day, she even blocked me. Even when I called from unknown numbers, she still wouldn't pick up. It was driving me insane. And to top it off, I realized I didn't have contact information for any of her close friends over the years. But we've known each other for 20 years. We had agreed that no matter what kind of argument we had, we'd never hold a grudge overnight, that we'd talk it out before any real damage was done. Had she forgotten that? Since when did she become so unreasonable? She had no idea how much work I had to cram in just to clear this week for her, to be with her, to make her happy. Even the employees at my company used to joke that they'd never seen a couple together for so long who still acted like they were in the honeymoon phase, with me constantly sweet-talking and pampering my wife. Sometimes, business partners would try to introduce young, pretty girls to me during dinners. But I always turned them down, no matter what. Because in my heart, there's only Susan. I've never broken my promise to her. Besides, I know Susan's temper. If I even so much as entertained the idea of being with another woman, even as a joke, she would never forgive me. Everyone else could see how much I cherished her, so why wasn't she satisfied? The older she gets, the less mature she seems. Honestly, I'm getting a little tired. Since she wouldn't see me, there was no point in taking time off anymore. The company had a major international project that needed to be finalized before the new year, so I threw myself back into work. Susan loves me too much to stay mad forever. I knew she'd reach out sooner or later. After all, the new year is coming up, and she has no other family. Where else could she go? A few days of sulking and she'll be back, and when she does, I'm going to have a serious talk with her. No more disappearing acts. Our relationship can't survive these kinds of stunts. Every day after work, I'd stop by the house out of habit, hoping to see the lights on, glowing warmly like they used to. But every day, I was disappointed. So, I stayed at my mom's place. After a long day, at least I could have a hot meal. Thankfully, my mom was okay after that scare on New Year's Eve. When I rushed to the hospital, I asked the doctor for details, and they told me it was just an emotional episode from her age, nothing serious. They reminded me to spend more time with her, even if I'm busy with work. I felt guilty. My dad died when I was just 3. My mom was so young back then, she could have remarried, but she chose the hardest path, raising me on her own. She went through so much to bring me up, and now that it's my turn to take care of her, I'd been dedicating all my time and energy to Susan instead. When I was young and reckless, I even hurt my mom deeply by insisting I'd only marry Susan, despite my mom's objections, even driving her to the point of attempting suicide. Since then, I've tried to make up for it, doing everything I can to be good to her, both to repay her for raising me and to heal the wounds I caused. But I know it's never been enough. Susan didn't get along with her, and refused to live together, so I had to split my time between the two. And Susan couldn't have children, which made my mom cry over my dad's photo every day, saying that without an heir, she was letting him down. It wasn't until my mom left a suicide note and took sleeping pills that I realized how deeply this weighed on her. The memory of her earlier suicide attempt flashed vividly in my mind, filling me with fear. If I stood by and let my mom harm herself again, would I even be human? Divorce was out of the question. I could never leave Susan, my true love, just for the sake of having a child. So, I compromised. The only line I wouldn't cross was that I would never touch Faith. My mom wasn't happy. She insisted a child conceived through artificial insemination wouldn't be as smart as a naturally conceived one, but when she saw how firm I was, she reluctantly agreed. After Faith got pregnant, I was terrified of facing Susan. I was afraid she'd leave me for good. But I kept reassuring myself that it was okay. I hadn't betrayed her. The child was just for my mom, and I'd compensate Faith generously. She wasn't the kind of woman to cause trouble, so things would be fine. Thankfully, Susan was as understanding as I'd hoped. She was a bit sad at first, but she came to terms with it quickly and didn't make things difficult for me. Finally, everything was back on track, just as I'd planned. Life was smooth and steady again. And my mom, ever since Faith moved in, had been happier than I'd ever seen her. The two of them laughed and chatted every day, and it made me reflect a lot. Many times, watching them get along so well, I couldn't help but think, if only Susan could do the same for my mom, life would be perfect. As for Faith, she was nothing like the kind of woman I could fall for. There was no chance of romantic feelings between us. At most, once the child was born, there would be some sense of familial bond, but that's it. When she eventually gets married, I plan to send her off with the most generous dowry, like a brother giving his sister away. I'd even talked to her beforehand. I told her that if my mom ever pressured her to do something she didn't want to, she could refuse, and I'd handle it. I'd never force her to have a child for me. But she said she thought of Susan as an older sister, and that she was willing to have a child for us, so that the child could keep Susan company when she got older, so she wouldn't be lonely. I know that Susan loves children. When she lost the two before, she would cry from nightmares every night. She treats Faith very well too. Faith is the person my father-in-law saved at the cost of his life. Susan once said that when she sees Faith, it reminds her of her father. As long as Faith is alive, it feels like her father's presence surrounds her and never leaves. So I figured if I had to have a child, it would be easier for Susan to accept if Faith gave me one rather than someone else. So, I continued working while waiting for news from Susan. But on the afternoon of that day, while I was reviewing the contract terms for the afternoon signing, several employees burst into my office, frantically waving their phones and shouting at me. "Colbert! Colbert! You have to check the trending news. The injured woman who tried to save someone looks just like your wife." Injured? At the sound of that word, my mind went completely blank for a moment. I quickly grabbed one of their phones. This morning, there was a violent attack on a doctor at North City University's affiliated oncology hospital. The family of a deceased patient lost control of their emotions and retaliated against the attending doctor with a knife. 3 patients intervened, trying to stop the attack. 1 was severely injured, 2 others sustained minor injuries. The injured doctor and the rescuers are now being treated together. The video was uploaded by bystanders at the scene. With trembling hands, I tried to zoom in on the screen. That girl, covered in blood, slumped in the corner. She really looked like my Susan. And I could clearly hear the woman in the video, holding the girl and crying out desperately, "Susan! Susan!" In that instant, everything went black before my eyes. The ground shook beneath me. I grabbed my car keys in a frenzy and sped towards the oncology hospital like a madman. The injured person was actually Susan. But how could she be a patient at the oncology hospital? And she was so badly hurt, in there for so long, and still hadn't come out. No matter how much I begged the medical staff to let me in, they refused, saying family members could only enter after the emergency treatment was over. Even though my heart was breaking, and I was about to lose my mind with worry, all I could do was wait at the door, desperately hoping for news. Suddenly, I spotted a familiar figure. It looked like one of Susan's classmates from medical school. I rushed to him, begging him to take me inside, to let me see Susan. She's relied on me for 20 years. She must be in so much pain, so scared right now. The person she wants to see the most has to be me. But he shook his head. He said Susan didn't want to see me. How could that be? My Susan, how could she not want to see me? He must be lying. Furious, I punched him in the face and fought my way towards the door. Several security guards rushed over and dragged me away, handing me over to the police who had arrived after the hospital called them. I didn't care about anything at that point, my dignity was gone. I cried and begged the police not to take me away. I told them my wife was in there, her life hanging by a thread. I begged them to have some compassion for me. I was this close to getting down on my knees. The police softened visibly, but that damn doctor I'd punched coldly accused me of assaulting him and disturbing hospital order, insisting the police take me away. In the police car, I continued to cry and plead. After signing a bunch of papers and repeatedly promising I wouldn't cause any more trouble, they finally sent 2 officers to escort me back to the hospital. But when I got there, the nurse told me that Susan had already been moved out of the ICU. I nearly collapsed with relief. I asked her, trembling, if my wife was out of danger. She glanced at me and coldly replied, "Wait for further notice." No one else would speak to me. I had no idea where I was supposed to wait for that notice. I couldn't even remember the name of the doctor. I went from one information desk to another, asking wherever I could, until I was stunned to find out that Susan had kidney cancer. I found Susan's old hospital room, but it was empty. It felt like everything I'd heard about her emergency treatment was just a dream, completely unreal. That damn doctor was nowhere to be seen either. I waited in the corridor outside the room like an ant on a hot pan, for 3 whole days and nights. Until late one night, that doctor appeared before me again. He handed me a sealed bag, saying it was from Susan for me. Inside the bag, there was only Susan's phone, a voice recorder, and a divorce agreement. He turned to leave, but I grabbed his arm, demanding to know where Susan had gone. I told him I was her husband, I had the right to know where my wife was. He turned and looked at me, silently staring. And then suddenly, he punched me hard in the face. I hadn't eaten or slept properly in days. I was too weak to fight back and soon found myself dizzy, slumped on the ground. Before I could recover, he left me with a parting line: he would take care of Susan, and I should stop bothering her. Who the hell do you think you are? Susan is my wife. We're just having a marital dispute, that's all. As long as I don't agree to the divorce, she'll always be my wife. But as long as Susan is safe, that's all that matters. I'll spend as much money as it takes to find the best kidney cancer specialists, both here and abroad. I'll make sure Susan knows who can really take care of her. Now that I know Susan is still alive, I perked up immediately. I eagerly opened the voice recorder, thinking it would contain Susan's message to me. But after listening to it, it felt like my whole world collapsed. The voice filled with curses and accusations. Was that really my mother? The ungrateful, shameless woman, was that really Faith? In a daze, I returned to the house I hadn't entered in ages, the home Susan and I shared. The faint fragrance lingering in the air made it feel like Susan might step out of the kitchen with a smile any second. I walked into her study. The drawer was full of neatly written sticky notes, all in Susan's beautiful handwriting. Drink a glass of warm water when you wake up. Don't skip breakfast. No matter how busy you are, don't stay up late. If you take antibiotics, don't drink alcohol. Don't drive angrily. Be patient with your employees. Control your temper. A list of things to check during your annual health exams. The little notes were filled with her gentle reminders. I couldn't stop crying. The tears flowed uncontrollably. And under the pearl necklace I gave her, there was a small sticky note. Wishing Colbert and Faith a lifetime of happiness. I tore that note to shreds in a rage. Who the hell wants to spend a lifetime with Faith? Susan, why do you have to be so stubborn? I just wanted her to have a child. It's not like I ever touched her. The only person I've ever loved is you. From start to finish, it's always been you. I ripped open my collar, gasping for air, and opened her phone. December. I stared at her pale face on her Instagram and the abortion report, as if struck by lightning. Susan was actually pregnant? What did I say to her that day? I said that with all the medication she's been on, the baby wouldn't be healthy even if it were born. But that's because I thought she was just lying to me, trying to get back at me. After all, she hadn't been able to conceive for so many years. My heart shattered. I slapped myself hard twice. December. Feelings change easily, but it's easy to claim someone else's heart has changed. The image was a screenshot of a voice message from Faith. She had transcribed the voice message into text. The content of that conversation made me feel like I was sitting on pins and needles. It must have been one of those times I got drunk and, seeing my mom cry over my dad again, I vented to Faith a bit while she tried to comfort me. Those weren't my true feelings, Susan. I've always only loved you. I've never changed. December. The difference between a wife and a mistress is just a matter of status. I should be happy, right? My scalp tingled. That bracelet, it was my mom who chose it. I just paid for it and gave it to Faith. It wasn't meant as a gift from me. Wife and mistress? I never. Susan, you must have misunderstood me too deeply. December. The whole city's lights are shining, but none of them are waiting for me. That's not true, Susan. Once you recover, I promise I'll come home early every day to be with you, okay? Don't be mad at me anymore, Susan. December. I don't want to look ugly. I want to buy 7 wigs and switch up my hairstyle every day, looking fabulous. She posted a screenshot of the order for her wigs. But the shipping address was David's office. So does this mean she doesn't want me anymore? A sharp pain twisted in my heart. December. I listened slowly to the sound of snow falling. Closing my eyes, imagining it never stops. You can't get close, not because you're cold-hearted, but because you're lost in the beauty outside the window. I taste slowly the sound of snow falling. As if you're by my side, whispering sweetly. But when I open my eyes, the snow is endless. And no one can make up for the good times we've lost. Susan's gentle voice seemed to softly sing into my ear. My tears couldn't stop for even a moment. December. I want to become a fuller, more perfect, eternal moon. Attached was a picture of a document, with her name signed on it, but blurred out. I looked closer, and I thought I saw a vague stamp from their medical school. Did she sign some treatment agreement with the medical school? Is this for a disease? I couldn't understand it, frowning deeply. I had to ask David, what exactly did Susan agree to with him? December. Let's part ways, with peace in our hearts and happiness in our lives. The picture attached was our marriage certificate, her diamond ring, and the signed divorce papers. My hand started to tremble. Those days, she said she had forgiven me. She promised we'd go back to the way we were, close and inseparable. But she still wants to leave me. In the end, it was all because of that child. Why did it have to come to this? Susan, can I take it back now? I'll ask Faith to terminate the pregnancy. Please forgive me. December. Dad, I miss you so much. If I can't come back again, remember this man named David. He's a good friend of mine and will come visit you on my behalf. The picture was of her back, standing in front of her father's grave. My heart ached with both sadness and anger. Who is David to her? Why should he go? Susan, you can't do this to get back at me, you can't. For some reason, there were no more updates after that. I clutched her phone tightly to my chest. The pain of not seeing her felt like 1,000 arrows piercing my heart, making it hard to breathe. I forced myself to stay strong, living at my office, pouring all my energy into researching treatments for kidney cancer and consulting with experts around the world. I had to take better care of Susan than David ever could. I stopped answering my mom's calls, not going to see her for even a single day. I couldn't accept the way she insulted Susan. But the most urgent thing now was to cure Susan. Everything else, including dealing with Faith's child, could wait. A week later, I had several treatment plans from the world's top experts in hand and rushed to find David. Where is Susan? Look at these plans, could any of them be more valuable? I don't want to fight with you, I just want to cure her as soon as possible. David glanced at the thick stack of papers with indifference, seemingly uninterested. Susan suffered a severe head injury. After emergency surgery, her body's functions were severely compromised, and with only one kidney, she can't handle the strain of these treatments. Your tumor plans are nothing but theoretical nonsense, they won't work. He stared at me and added, it wasn't from an accident while trying to save her, it was from the night you left her alone on the street. I froze. That night, she just tripped, didn't she? How could it have been so serious? He looked at me coldly. Do you really want to see Susan? I loosened my collar and replied hoarsely, take me to her. Our marriage is between us, we'll sort it out. He looked at me for a long moment. Follow me. I never expected him to take me to their medical school instead of the hospital. After turning through multiple corridors, we stopped in front of a cold, eerie laboratory. My voice shook, what are you doing? He didn't answer, only opened the door. Inside, there were shelves full of human organs preserved in formaldehyde. My heart clenched violently, my throat felt like it was being strangled, making it hard to breathe. David stood in front of a row of display jars, pointing to a few glass containers. You wanted to see Susan, didn't you? She's right here. Boom. My world collapsed. I trembled uncontrollably, inching closer to those jars. My Susan, I was still supposed to cure you. And now. Everything went black before my eyes. I fell seriously ill, and my memory worsened, I couldn't even remember what I had eaten in the morning by noon. I spent countless sleepless nights, haunted by that New Year's Eve at Universal Studios, where Susan collapsed, giving me one last look. That was the last time Susan saw me in this life. David told me that on the day they tried to save her, he asked if she wanted to see me, but she refused. Every time I think about that scene, I break down in tears. Susan hated me that much. She didn't even leave me a place to mourn her. She wanted to punish me this way, making me live a life worse than death. I was wrong, Susan, I truly know I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken your kindness and love for granted, relying on your understanding, expecting you to be the sensible one, and forgetting that you were alone in this world, with no one else to love and care for you but me. But I've sincerely repented. Can you come back to me, just to see me one more time? Even if it's just in a dream. On New Year's Day, I was barely able to get out of bed. Seeing my mother crying, I smiled. Mom, don't cry. Your love suffocates me. I want to visit my father-in-law's grave, to say sorry. I didn't take care of his daughter. Before leaving, I looked back at her one last time. Take care of yourself, Mom. At my father-in-law's grave, there was a bouquet of fresh flowers and some offerings. I knew David had been here. I didn't bring anything. I knew I wasn't worthy, and I was afraid that if I did, it would anger him. I just wanted to say sorry, that's all. A cold wind blew, and crows cawed mournfully overhead. I knelt in front of the grave for the entire afternoon. As dusk fell, I finally stood up, gently brushed the tombstone, and bowed deeply. On my way down the mountain, I opened the car window and sped down the road. Far in the distance, I saw a faint mist rising, and through the haze, I seemed to catch a glimpse of the 15-year-old Susan, her eyes red as she waved at me. Colbert, will you leave me like my dad did? I shook my head desperately, shouting at her with all my might. Susan, wait for me. I'm coming to be with you. I'll never let you be lonely or afraid again. David's epilogue. At age 30, I finally conquered the challenge of curing kidney cancer. The dean said I had contributed to the welfare of all humanity. We were the first country in the world to develop a cure for kidney cancer that had passed clinical trials, bringing hope to patients worldwide who had suffered from this disease. But no one knew that the person who kept me fighting for this, dedicating my life to this goal, was the girl I loved. No one knew that the more brilliant my success, the deeper my pain. Because the girl I loved, she never got to see this day. I met Susan during my first anatomy class. Despite all my mental preparation, when we walked into the dissection room and saw the real cadaver waiting for us, we were all too shaken to do anything. Susan, one of the top students, was invited by the professor to help calm us down. She was beautiful, but what drew me in even more was her gentleness. Her voice was soft and calm. No matter how big the issue was, when she spoke, it felt like a gentle spring rain, immediately putting us at ease. Her patience and composure were captivating. No matter how complicated the situation, she always handled it with calm and precision. I never once saw her lose her temper. Her emotions were always so peaceful and tender. Just being near her gave you a sense of comfort. What shocked me the most was that she was an academic superstar. To thoroughly understand some foreign medical literature, she even went and earned a double degree in English, winning the top scholarship and academic honors every single year in both departments. I almost started to believe she was some kind of angel from above. I wanted to pursue her. Just like the countless other guys who saw her as their goddess. But just as this thought began to take root, I heard she had a boyfriend from high school, a genius from our university's math department named Colbert. I was young then, and my restless heart was brimming with defiant love. I felt like no one could love Susan as much as I did. I thought I could somehow compete with Colbert. So, I secretly investigated him, even following him to class and meals, trying to learn everything about him. A year later, I had to admit defeat. Aside from how remarkable Colbert was, it was clear he truly adored Susan. Susan, who always maintained such a gentle, composed demeanor, would show a more playful, endearing side only when she was with him. And when she looked at him, her eyes sparkled. Fine, I admitted to myself that my feelings were unrealistic. My crush was already humbling, I didn't want to make it pathetic. So, I put away my feelings, sincerely wishing Susan and Colbert the best, then threw myself into my studies, becoming the quiet, bookish student my classmates saw. After graduation, I stayed at the university as a PhD candidate, burying myself in research, working tirelessly. Susan and I were in the same city, but aside from one class reunion at the university's anniversary, we never met again. Over the years, she became even more radiant after marriage. I dared not look at her for too long, afraid she might detect the faint, well-contained feelings I still held, feelings that could ruin even our friendship. I never imagined that on a snowy winter solstice, she would call to tell me she'd been diagnosed with kidney cancer. While I was desperately trying to find a way to save her, she came to my office, her face pale, telling me she wanted to donate her body to the medical school after her passing. I cried after she left that day. It was embarrassing, but I couldn't hold it in. Medical schools always lack cadaver donations because so few people are willing to donate their bodies. Even for us medical students, the thought of being dissected posthumously like some specimen, it's hard to accept, no matter how rational we are about it. Susan was, as her name implied. She was like the serene, pure moon in the sky, both awe-inspiring and untouchable. Everything that happened after that, I don't want to recall. No matter how much time passes, it still breaks my heart. If I'd known Susan would leave so early, I would have taken time off work to be by her side every night. But I was so busy, I could only spare brief visits, and even then, I never expressed my feelings. I kept a formal, professional demeanor. Because I knew her. If she sensed any lingering feelings in me, she would have kept her distance, and I wouldn't even have had the chance to take care of her. She was like this in college: if she didn't love someone, she wouldn't give them a shred of hope or a chance to get hurt. She was so clear-minded, gentle, and considerate. It's a pity Colbert, that jerk, eventually let her down. No matter, she was like the moon after all, and in the end, she returned to the heavens. This world didn't deserve her. After Susan's death, I signed a body donation form for myself, too. Susan's corneas were donated to a blind girl. I visited that girl often afterward, and every time I looked into her eyes, it felt like I was seeing Susan looking back at me with that familiar, gentle smile. The university even made an exception to preserve Susan's skeleton as a complete specimen on display in the main hall of the science building. Students pass by daily, stopping to bow in respect to her memory. I often found myself sitting in front of her skeleton late at night, in those quiet moments when I felt most lost. Somehow, being near her brought me calm and comfort, as if Susan had never left. I remember that day I brought Colbert to the specimen room. He fainted on the spot from the shock, and I took the chance to kick him several times. No matter what, my hatred for him couldn't be erased. This bastard had made Susan's last days a misery. Even as she left, there were tears in the corners of her eyes. Every time I think of her tear-streaked face in those final moments, it feels like a blade twisting in my heart. Luckily, karma came for him. Colbert died in a car accident on New Year's Day. He'd once tried to sign a body donation form, wanting to be near Susan in the specimen room. I'd never let that happen. Before I could send his body to another medical school that badly needed specimens, his mother stormed in, crying hysterically and tearing up the form, taking his damaged body away. That's how it is, even with a signed agreement: if the family protests, the donation falls through. Susan had asked me not to tell Colbert about her plans until after she was gone. She'd truly given up on him by then. I later heard his mother went mad, wandering the streets with his ashes, looking for him until she was taken to a psychiatric hospital. It turns out Colbert had secretly taken Faith's child, ruining her family's business, leaving them in debt and lawsuits. Worse, he'd publicly posted an audio clip of Faith insulting Susan, turning public sentiment harshly against her family. Colbert's death came a year before I learned he had signed over his shares, donating everything to our medical school. It was fitting, we really needed the funds. I never married or had children, pouring my entire life into work. My parents scolded me for it. But what could I do? My heart belonged to a moon, leaving no room for anyone else. I was living the life I chose. No one, not even my parents, could change that. As I grew older, students began to worry about my health and told me to stop taking on surgeries. I don't know how many more patients I can save. But each one I help brings me a joy that lasts. Like tonight, I successfully completed a surgery, bringing hope to the patient's family. As I walked along the hospital hallway where I'd once admitted Susan, I looked up to see the soft glow of the full moon above. For some reason, the moon has seemed more beautiful since she left. I gazed at it, lost in thought, hearing her voice in my mind. "David, you're amazing." I smiled. "Thank you, Susan. You gave my life meaning, a goal worth pursuing. Life was worth it, after all." Extra chapter, Rebirth. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back in the summer when I was 15. The soft morning light filtered into my room, and on my desk lay my long-forgotten textbooks and notebooks, scattered everywhere. From the kitchen, I could hear my dad cooking breakfast. I stared at the date on the calendar, and tears filled my eyes. Not bothering to put on shoes, I rushed into the kitchen and hugged my dad tightly. "What's this? Running in here barefoot? Did you wake up confused?" he chuckled, nudging me away. "Come on, don't get in the way." "Dad, I missed you so much." In my past life, the memory of him burned and scarred in that fire haunted me until my dying day. I missed him so deeply. Soon, my uncontrollable sobs startled him. His smile faded. "Did you have a nightmare?" "Don't worry, Susan, dreams aren't real. I'm here to protect you, so there's nothing to fear." His words made me cry even harder. Today was Father's Day. In my past life, it was on this very night that my father was pushed into that fire by fate, and I lost him forever. In this life, I wouldn't wish for anything else, I just wanted my father to be safe and sound. With tears streaming down my face, I managed a shaky smile. "I'm not afraid anymore." He sighed with relief, gently tapping my forehead with his fingers. "Good, now go wash up and get ready to eat." When I finally collected myself and sat at the table, the taste of my dad's cooking, a flavor I had missed for decades, brought back a flood of tears I couldn't stop. Dad looked at me with concern. "Susan, what's really going on? If you've got something on your mind, you can tell me." I wiped my tears and forced a casual smile. "It's nothing, Dad. I just dreamt about Grandma. Can we go visit her today?" I knew him so well. If we stayed home tonight, I could never stop him from running out to help those in need. Even if I managed to hold him back, it would torment him for the rest of his life. I needed to make sure he wouldn't be anywhere near that place tonight. "But you have school tomorrow. How about next Saturday?" My grandmother's place was in the northern suburbs, about an hour's drive. Since my mother passed, Dad had taken me to visit her regularly, making sure she was supported. I insisted, "I have to prepare for final exams over the next few weeks, so let's go visit her today. I miss her." Dad gave a helpless smile. All right. Then eat up." After breakfast, I held on tightly to Dad's arm as we boarded the bus heading to Grandma's house. A gentle breeze swept by, and the scenery flashed past. Scenes from my past life surfaced vividly in my mind. "Dad, I want to transfer back to a school closer to home next semester." Dad froze and immediately asked, "Tell me, is there something at school that's upsetting you?" I thought he'd scold me for being impulsive. After all, this school is one many would dream of attending. I didn't expect his first reaction would be concern for me. Having Dad as my support in life is such a blessing. I sniffled and nodded. "There's a boy in my class named Colbert who's always pestering me. He's the class president, and all the teachers adore him. His mom's a teacher at the school, too. Even if I report him, no one would believe me. But I really don't want him affecting my mood and studies." Dad's expression darkened immediately. "This has been going on? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I'll talk to his parents. If they can't handle it, I'll go to the school. Nobody bullies my daughter." Dad's face was filled with concern and anger, stirring a mix of emotions in me. In my past life, whenever older boys harassed me, it was Colbert who would step in to protect me time and again. Gradually, as we sat in the rows in front and behind each other, our youthful hearts grew closer. Especially after Dad's sudden accident, Colbert's affection and care gave me the emotional support I needed. From our teenage years into our 30s, his love and warmth were so deeply sincere that I gave back to him with all my gentleness and understanding. But in the end, our fate unraveled because of the obstacle his mother posed and his eventual betrayal. So in this life, I only want to stay far away from him and his mother. Coming back to the present, I smiled to reassure Dad. "Dad, don't be angry. It's not worth wasting time on someone who doesn't matter. If I transfer to a school closer to home, I'll definitely do even better in my studies. Please let me, Dad." Though it was a pity for Dad to let go of such a prestigious school, he saw my determination and quickly agreed to handle the transfer. And since my grades were strong, the new school would be willing to accept me without question. Thinking about the new path ahead, I took a long, relieved breath. When we arrived at Grandma's house, she was in the garden picking cherries. One of the reasons she didn't want to move to the city with us was her attachment to her little vegetable garden. After Dad passed away in my previous life, Grandma often reminded me to take care of myself. She'd say I was still growing and studying hard, that I shouldn't skimp on food or clothes. She'd tell me her health was good, and she could still support me until I grew up, got married, and had children. But my beloved Grandma didn't keep her promise. She said she'd stay with me, but she left me forever in my sophomore year of college, suddenly taken by a stroke. I didn't even get to see her one last time. Now, seeing the one who loved me most once again, I ran forward with tears in my eyes and hugged her tightly. Grandma laughed as she tried to dodge me. "You silly girl, why are you acting all frantic today? Let go of me, I'm covered in dirt." "You arrived just in time. I was about to ask someone to bring you these cherries in the city. Go sit inside with your dad, and I'll wash these for you." "Oh? Why are you crying, Susan? What's wrong?" Seeing the worry cloud Grandma's smiling face, Dad quickly explained before I could speak. "Susan had a strange dream last night and wouldn't tell me about it. She started crying first thing in the morning and insisted on coming to see you. Just a child's nightmare, nothing to worry about." Grandma looked at me with concern, and I sniffled and nodded. "Silly girl, what's there to fear from a bad dream? See, I'm just fine, and everyone in our family is fine. We're doing better and better, so don't let your thoughts wander." I leaned into her warm embrace, my eyes smiling through my tears. Yes, in this life, I will make sure every one of my beloved family members stays safe and happy. The next morning, around 5, Dad and I boarded the bus back to the city with 2 large bags of fresh vegetables and fruits. Dad wanted to drop me off directly at school, but I insisted on going home with him first. I wanted to see firsthand the fate of Faith's family in this life, the family who had once faced a fire. As soon as we reached the corner near our home, we saw people milling around. The narrow alley was crowded with onlookers, and the air was thick with the awful smell of burning. Dad frowned and quickened his pace. "Oh no, what happened?" I said nothing and followed closely behind. Just then, we ran into a neighbor who waved at Dad. "Something big happened. The house next door caught fire last night." "What? Were they okay?" The fire broke out so suddenly in the middle of the night. Everyone was fast asleep and didn't realize. By the time someone called for help, the couple couldn't be saved. Only that poor girl, Faith, was rescued and sent to the hospital. Such a tragedy. A family torn apart just like that. I clenched my fists slightly. So, in this life, without Dad's sacrifice, the family torn apart wasn't mine, it was Faith's. And this time, the orphan left behind wasn't me, it was her. Looking back at my past, all I can say is they deserved it. The fire had been caused by their illegal wiring. In my previous life, Dad died saving them. They had promised to care for me, but instead, they constantly ignored my calls whenever I needed money or help, claiming they were too busy with business. The hardship of those first years fell entirely on Grandma, who struggled to support me on her small income. All they did was show up on Dad's death anniversary or on New Year's to say a few polite words and treat me to a meal. That was all. Worse still, after I died and Colbert aborted Faith's child, causing a scandal, Faith's parents paid people to spread false stories that they had spent tens of thousands on me over the years, only to be repaid with my ungratefulness and constant demands. Since I was no longer alive, and with no family to defend me, they could say whatever they wanted. At that point, Colbert had also passed away. It was David who gathered evidence to expose them, finally causing them to face public disgrace, lawsuits, and crippling debt. After paying off their debts and losing everything, they ended up living in a shed near a scrapyard, scraping by with odd jobs. The 3 of them argued constantly, blaming each other. Faith's parents called her a failure, while she berated them for being useless and poor. Their life was miserable, despised by everyone around them. As if it were karma, a few years later, a fire broke out at the scrapyard. By the time the firefighters arrived, all 3 had perished, burned to ashes. Finally, they'd gone quiet, no longer disturbing anyone. The sound of the neighbor's voice brought me out of my thoughts. Just now, the community held an emergency meeting. Since you weren't there, let me fill you in. I frowned and listened as he continued. They have no relatives in the city. Their rural hometown only has a couple of ailing elders and some poor brothers. Faith's father asked us before he died to help keep Faith here in the city so she wouldn't suffer in the countryside. The community center is hoping one of us could adopt Faith, with financial assistance. Since your family was the closest with them, and Faith and Susan have been like sisters, would you? My face darkened as I pulled Dad aside, interrupting with a polite smile. Sorry, our family can't take this on, but thank you for letting us know. The neighbor looked awkward. Oh, no problem, no problem. I pulled Dad along, speaking quietly. Dad, you need to stop being such a pushover. We absolutely can't agree to adopt Faith. Even kindness has its limits, got it? Dad was surprised, but then laughed. It's like you've become a different person overnight. Don't worry. I wouldn't agree to something like that lightly. My energy is limited, and I'll use it all on you. I smiled slightly. No need to worry about Faith, she'll have her own good fortune. I looked toward the street corner. Colbert, on his bike, was leaning forward, looking through the crowd at me. I smiled. See? Faith's good fortune has already arrived. Every Monday in my previous life, Colbert would get up early, cross half the city, and come to my doorstep to pick me up for school. At that time, I would sit on the back of his bike, riding with him through the morning's busy traffic, my heart brimming with sweetness. But now, as I stand in front of him once again, I feel nothing in my heart. No love. No hate. Just a sense of utter indifference. Susan, is everything okay around here? Is your family all right? Colbert asked, looking at me with concern. On this same day in our previous life, when he found out my father had left me, he held my hand tightly in his, tears streaming down his face, and made me the most earnest promise, a promise he didn't keep. This time, I nodded with a heavy expression. The couple next door passed away in a fire, leaving behind their 7-year-old daughter with no one to care for her. My dad has to go take care of my grandma, so he can't help, even though he'd like to. I remember you once said your mom supports orphan children. Do you think she could help take care of this little girl for a few days? Colbert looked uneasy. I'd have to ask my mom first. I nodded confidently. Your mom's so kind, I'm sure she'd be willing. He scratched his head. True, she is very kind. Suppressing my disdain, I added, I just heard that the fire got the mayor's attention. If your mom steps up to help this orphan, she'll likely get recognized. It would be a great opportunity for her. Colbert was swayed. If that's the case, it might help her career. Then let's hurry, before someone else volunteers first. I smiled and led him toward the community management office. By chance, reporters were interviewing staff at the office. I immediately told them about how Viola, a wonderful teacher, had volunteered to take in Faith. Hearing this, they were overjoyed, clearly relieved. Journalists from local TV stations and a few newspapers, sensing a heartwarming story, perked up instantly. By the time Viola herself learned of her supposedly noble act, the press release had already reached her school. The mayor praised her efforts, and the principal declared Viola a role model for all staff, urging them to follow her example. I could only imagine the scene, how that hypocritical, two-faced Viola, despite resenting Colbert for this mess, would have no choice but to accept the burden of taking care of Faith, however unwillingly. Just picturing those three living under one roof in harmony made me want to laugh. Didn't Viola like Faith so much? Well, this life would give them plenty of time to bond as mother and daughter. By the end of the semester, Colbert was too tied up with family matters to bother me anymore. And when the new semester began, I was already seated in a new classroom at a new school, free from anyone I didn't want to see, ready to fully focus on my last 2 years of high school. I had to get into North City University School of Medicine. To fulfill the dream I couldn't complete in my past life. 2 years later, in September, I walked through the gates of North City University just as I'd hoped. My dad had actually wanted me to apply to the School of Foreign Languages since I once dreamed of becoming a diplomat. If my dad hadn't passed away in my last life, maybe I would have followed that path, going to the school of foreign languages to chase that dream. But ever since the idea of studying medicine to help others had taken root in my heart, I couldn't give up the desire to become a doctor, no matter how challenging it might be. Plus, this time, I had another purpose. As I walked through the campus, the autumn breeze blowing gently, upperclassmen welcomed me with warm smiles. One of them reached for my suitcase when a familiar voice sounded from behind me. "I've got it." The voice was so familiar, yet so distant, as if it had only existed in the drifting years of my soul, intense, and yet so unreal. I turned hurriedly to see a young man in a plain white shirt and jeans, looking at me with a focused gaze. David. It was really him. But he should still be in high school, studying hard for exams since he's 2 grades below me. And his gaze was entirely different from how he'd looked at me in the past, calling my name with a clear, unaffected tone. His eyes now held a fierce intensity, with a hint of red at the corners, the same expression he used to have when he'd share his ups and downs with me, night after night, over all those years. So I knew that he remembered. Because no one would recognize his expressions and glances better than I did. For 40 years, I had accompanied him, feeling his joys and sorrows every single day until I witnessed the glory of his battle against kidney cancer. 40 years of intimate conversations, enough to know him inside out, though he never knew. And how many people in life get the chance to be with someone every day for 40 years? 40 years of close companionship had imprinted this exceptional, loyal man deep in my heart, never to be forgotten. In that moment, with a flood of emotions, I didn't know how to start a conversation with him. But he spoke first. "Hi Susan, I'm David. We're in the same department, same class." "Same class?" I couldn't hide my surprise. He must have mistaken my reaction for rejection, and he gave a small, shy smile, nodding toward the registration list for new students. "I registered right after you, so, since we're classmates, may I walk you to your dorm?" I looked at the young, somewhat awkward David in front of me. My memory filled with images of him, white-haired and wistful, my eyes began to sting unexpectedly. Steadying myself, I returned his smile. "Thank you, David. Thank you for all you did for me in our past lives. And thank you for coming back to be with me again in this one." I saw him freeze, his ears turning slightly red at my smile. "You're welcome. Let's go." David tried to maintain a steady expression and voice, but his blushing ears and cheeks betrayed his nervousness. Then, as he reached for my suitcase, our hands brushed for a moment, and we both quickly pulled away, instinctively locking eyes. Heaven knows how fast my heart was beating. This familiar feeling, the quickening of my pulse, brought a sudden blush to my face. How could I not feel moved? For 40 years, my spirit had been trapped within every corner of that lab building where he spent his days. I'd witnessed his brilliance and honesty, his kindness and determination, his passion and suffering, all etched deeply in my heart. Especially in those moments when he smiled at me through his tears, I always felt a deep sadness that I could never respond, never stand by his side. But now, we were reunited under the sun. I only wanted to cherish him, to live this life without regrets. Originally, I'd planned to wait until he started university in 2 years and then pursue him myself. But now, here he was, right next to me, already remembering everything from our past. So, after 40 years, I didn't want to waste a single second. I looked deeply into his eyes, taking his hand in mine. He flinched slightly. So I held his hand firmly, lacing my fingers through his as we walked slowly forward. "David, you're incredible, absolutely remarkable. You're the most amazing person I've ever met, bar none. You used to tell me it was an honor to know me, that I was your pride, your role model, your inspiration, but you never heard me tell you how proud I was of you. You would often say how happy you'd be if only I could praise you. You said you'd heard me thank you countless times, but had never heard me compliment you. But you're so outstanding, where would I even begin?" I stopped and looked up at him. "So, give me a lifetime to sing your praises, won't you?" David's eyes reddened, his voice trembling. "Susan?" I nodded, my own eyes brimming with tears. "It's me, David. I'm back. And..." I took a deep breath, smiling at him. "David, I've liked you for a long time." Immediately, he tightened his grip on my fingers, as though wanting to imprint them into his palm. Then, he suddenly turned his head to the side, lifting his chin, and I saw the telltale glimmer of tears running silently down his cheek. With a trembling hand, I reached out to wipe his tears away. After 40 years, it wasn't the first time I'd seen him cry. But this time I could finally wipe his tears myself, to give him the comfort he so deserved. He, however, tightened his grip on my fingertips, pressing them firmly against his chest. "So, all those years, you were always by my side, weren't you?" I nodded, smiling at him. "I was there, but I didn't make it to the end of your life." "And when did you leave me?" "The year you conquered kidney cancer and received a lifetime honor." "That night, during the celebration they threw for you, I finally realized I could walk out of the lab building. I'd been trapped there for 40 years, so discovering I could leave felt exhilarating. But just as I was stepping out of the university gates, I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in this life, on Father's Day 2 years ago." David listened, his eyes wide with disbelief. Tears shimmered in his eyes as a faint smile touched his lips. "After the celebration that night, I passed away from a heart attack. And I woke up here on the same day as you. But I wasn't in North City. I snuck out and flew here in the middle of the night, rushing to your house because I was afraid something had happened to Uncle Lou. When I finally got there, firefighters were battling the flames, and no one was home. Now it was my turn to be stunned." "David? You were there that night?" He nodded with a wry smile. "But before I could find you, my parents dragged me back. I was still pretty young 2 years ago, so, yeah, I was helpless." I couldn't help but laugh at the image of a young runaway being dragged back by furious parents. "So that's when our star student went back, studied like mad, skipped 2 grades, and caught up to take the college entrance exams with me?" "Not just that," David shook his head seriously, his dark eyes earnest. "I worked out, ate well, and did everything I could to grow taller. I couldn't risk you looking down on me when we met again." I looked up at the tall, graceful David, smiling softly. "Silly. I'd love you even with gray hair and a hunched back." He paused, his voice a little rough. "But I had no idea you'd been with me for so many years. And I didn't know you'd even remember me now. I was just afraid I'd be too late again." I held his hand tightly. "My heart is small, and I've cleared it of people who don't matter. I was planning to shamelessly chase after you in 2 years, but you didn't give me the chance." He didn't say anything more, just held my hand tightly and looked at me with a quiet smile. "Susan." The unexpected call shattered the sweet moment. I turned and saw Colbert running towards us, gasping for breath. His eyes were fixed on my intertwined fingers with David's, practically smoldering. "Susan, you just got here, and you're already behaving like this? No self-respect?" I was almost too amused to be angry. David's face instantly darkened at the insult. He dropped my hand, ready to confront Colbert, but I quickly held him back. I frowned at Colbert. "Who are you again?" His eyes went wide. "You don't remember me?" I looked him up and down, suddenly realizing, oh, you do look familiar. "Weren't you my classmate in freshman year before I transferred? What was your name again?" Colbert's face turned sour. "Stop pretending, Susan. I didn't keep in touch these last 2 years, because your dad went to my school and reported me, embarrassing my mom in front of everyone. I had to pretend we were over, just to keep her from getting sick from the stress. But now I got into the Polytechnic college next door, and we can finally be together in the open. You liked me, stop using someone else to make me jealous, okay?" He reached out to grab my hand, but David shoved him back. Seeing they were about to fight, I quickly stepped in front of David. "Look, I don't know you at all. If you dare to bother me again, it won't just be my dad and my boyfriend you have to worry about. I'll report you to the police, tell them where your mom works, and have her pick you up from the station. Do you understand me?" Colbert looked stunned. "Susan, when did you become like this?" I gave a mocking laugh and tapped my head. "Might want to check if something's wrong up here first." Pulling David by the hand, I walked away, but Colbert blocked our path again. "Susan, I really do like you. I've been having nightmares lately, awful, confusing visions I can't explain, but I just know I want to be with you." Please, come back to me, like before. I swear, I never liked anyone else, only you. I'll take care of you forever, in ways no one else can. Shut up. David had finally had enough, landing a punch squarely on his mouth. Blood appeared at the corner of Colbert's lips. Eyes red, he looked ready to hit David back, but I stopped him with a single sentence. Your mom's here. Colbert immediately turned to look. I quickly led David forward. Colbert tried to follow, but security, alerted by the commotion, held him back. Campus security had been tightened for freshman registration day due to the crowds, and Colbert, not being a student, would soon be escorted off the premises. I squeezed David's hand. I stopped you from hitting him because we just started college, and it wouldn't look good for you. And, why waste time on someone who doesn't matter, right? David took a deep breath. He deserved it. I didn't get to hit him enough last time. Leaning against his shoulder, I smiled. We've got more important things to do in this life. No need to worry about him. Don't you want to hear my plan? He looked at me with gentle eyes, listening intently. This time, it won't be just you fighting alone. I'm here with you, and together, we'll tackle the kidney cancer problem you've already made progress on, way ahead of schedule. And once that's done, let's tackle as many challenges as we can to save more lives. And, I built a solid foundation in burn surgery, so this time, I'll shift my focus to oncological surgery. That way, we can fight side by side. Do you have any suggestions or thoughts on this? David looked at me, smiling with an unfathomable tenderness in his gaze. I just want to reach the legal age sooner. In my last life, I divided my property into 3 parts in my will. One part was given to the nurse, to thank her for giving me the extremely precious warmth. One part was left to David, to thank him for his hard work and efforts for me. The other part was donated to the medical school, to do my best. However, I didn't know until this life that David's family was very rich. He was too low-key, and after I died, I just accompanied him to do research in the laboratory building, and I never heard him mention his family. When he took me home to meet his parents for the first time, I learned that his parents started from scratch, and the company they founded was not only successfully listed, but also a major taxpayer in the city where his family lived, and his mother was a shrewd and capable woman. What's even more ridiculous is that his parents had already found a girl who was a good match for him. The process of meeting his parents was also harmonious. His parents have seen big scenes and would not embarrass me in terms of face. But how could I, who has lived 2 lives, not see the alienation in his parents' eyes? On the way back to North City, David held my hand tightly. Susan, I didn't tell you about my family situation before because I didn't think it was necessary. They are them, I am me, and no one can change my life. I teased him, you are so nervous, are you afraid that I will run away? He smiled and shook his head, of course I'm not afraid of you running away, I'm just afraid that they will put pressure on you and make you uncomfortable. Anyway, we will settle in North City in the future, and you will never need to live with them. No matter what time, I will stand firmly behind you. I thought about it, broke my fingers, and looked at the calendar on my phone seriously. He leaned over curiously, what are you thinking about? I'm calculating when my dad will become a millionaire. I laughed, the year I came back, I persuaded him to buy stocks with all the money he was going to use to buy a car. Then I asked him to apply for a buyout from the company in advance, and use the buyout fee of more than 100,000 yuan to buy stocks. You know how many times it will increase in 20 years. By then, my dad will also be a millionaire with tens of millions of dollars. Although not as good as your family, at least he is not so shabby. My dad is an electronic engineer. He originally worked in a Sino-US joint venture mobile phone accessories factory and had a good income. But I know everything that will happen in the future after my rebirth. The electronics factory that was once prosperous was later acquired one after another, and those employees who did not take the buyout fee in time were all unemployed. So I persuaded my father to give up the current treatment and decisively took the money and left. After buying the stocks, he directly joined a company that will become a pioneer in the industry in the future, with a bright future. Although I believe David's feelings for me will not change, after all, he was able to withstand such great pressure in his previous life and never married, but if my family's situation could be better, At least his parents would not embarrass him too much. Even if he will always stand by me, if his parents, wife and in-laws can get along harmoniously, he will definitely be more comfortable. If he is more comfortable and has no worries, he may be able to overcome more professional difficulties and treat more patients. Happiness requires the confidence of being evenly matched, the sincerity of working hard, and the courage to stand together through thick and thin. None of them can be missing. Time flies, and the years pass by. In a blink of an eye, David and I have become old professors in the medical school and experts in the cancer hospital, full of honors, and countless people have been saved. My grandma and dad are still healthy and strong, which is our greatest blessing. Our daughter realized my dream and became an outstanding diplomat. And our son became an Air Force officer. Because of work, our family of 4 rarely reunites. But this does not hinder our happiness. Our children are our pride, and we are their pride. My life is extremely complete and content. As for some insignificant people, they never appear in our lives again. I just happened to hear a sad thing at a class reunion. Didn't Viola, an excellent teacher at North City No. 1 Middle School, once rescue an orphan girl? She gained great honor and benefits through this good deed, and her reputation was known throughout the city, but she was not as good to the orphan girl as outsiders saw. The orphan girl had been entangled with her son since she was 16 years old, and her son couldn't get rid of her, so the two of them simply messed around for many years. But her son looked down on her background, and asked her to give up the child again and again, and never wanted to marry her. After Viola exposed the two people's affair, she was furious and scolded the orphan girl. The orphan girl simply tore her face off with her. The two fought and scolded each other every day, disturbing the neighbors. After a while, the orphan girl's years of resentment turned into a demon, and she secretly poisoned Viola. Viola died, and after the orphan girl was executed, her son never recovered. Look, life is so unpredictable. A single thought may lead you astray. It is too difficult to get back on track. Happiness is in everyone's own hands, and blessings come from an upright and sober heart. When I said this, David and I were walking home hand in hand after buying vegetables from the vegetable market. It's the new year, and my grandson and granddaughter have come back in advance to accompany us. There is still a lot of happiness waiting for us in this life. End.